Okay, following councillors are present: Councillor Alec Allison, Councillor Maureen Devlin, Councillor Isabel Dorman, Councillor Mark Horsham, Councillor Anne LeBlond, Councillor David McLaughlin. I have apologies from Councillor Graham Scott and understand Councillor Cowie. Is Councillor Cowie with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you, Councillor Cowie. I have apologies from Councillor David Shearer, and Councillor Jim Mortot is also present. Thank you, and I'll pass back to the Chair for today's business.
Stuart,
Yes?
I don't have a hand to put up on the phone. Only
Okay,
have a mic and a camera.
Right, I'm not sure where you would find that on your phone, but I'm assuming that the Chair will be quite happy if you just indicate verbally if you wish to
Right.
speak.
Yes, that'll be
Okay.
fine. Yeah, no
Right,
problem,
okay.
Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Do we have any declarations of interest? Can we agree the minutes of the previous meeting with pages 3 to 6?
Agree.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3. That's the review of case P20-0469 for subdivision of garden ground and erection of a two-storey detached house, 15 Dunavon Drive, East Kilbride. It's in pages 7 to 192. Okay. The applicant is asking the PLRB to review the planning officer's decision. The planning officer will take us through the description of the background, and Gwen will take us through that. Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you, Chair. This planning application seeks planning permission for the subdivision of garden ground and the erection of a two-storey detached dwelling house. The application site relates to an existing detached dwelling house and its existing garden ground at 15 Dunedin Drive in East Kilbride. The property sits at an angle on the corner of Dunedin Drive and Inglewood Crescent and is bounded by detached dwelling houses. The site is largely even and rises up slightly from Inglewood Crescent. The garden has mature trees and shrubs, particularly along the site's western boundary, and there is hedging in various forms and maturity along its northern and southern boundaries. The new dwelling would be formed to the rear of the existing dwelling and would front onto Inglewood Crescent. A new vehicular access would be formed off Inglewood Crescent with parking for 3 vehicles. On the ground floor, the new dwelling would have a living room, family dining kitchen room with utility, study and cloakroom toilet. On the first floor, 4 bedrooms would be formed, 2 with ensuite and a family bathroom. The external materials proposed are render with brick base layer, timber cladding feature and concrete roof tiles. The application site is 1,050 square metres and the plot for the new dwelling would be 476 square metres in size, and the plot for the existing house would become 574 square metres. In terms of site history, there have been no previous planning applications for the property. Since the planning application was refused, the applicant's agent has advised that the applicant has secured a prospective purchaser for the existing property that is aware of the proposed garden subdivision and the related planning application. The applicant's agent has stated that the applicant still owns the property at 15 Dunedin Drive. Further to this, the applicant's agent has confirmed that the land along the western boundary of the site sold by East Kilbride Development Corporation for use as garden ground only would not be impinged on by the proposed new dwelling. In terms of consultation, Arboricultural Services, Environmental Services and Roads and Transportation Services were consulted. Arboricultural Services requested to defer any decision until further information had been submitted in respect of a tree survey, tree retention removal plan, tree protection plan and arboricultural impact assessment. Environmental Services had no objection to the proposal so long as informatives were attached in relation to construction noise, nuisance, demolition, pest control, contamination and the control of smoke. Roads and Transportation Services had no objection to the proposal so long as appropriate conditions were imposed to control the new driveway's construction, its visibility display, drop curb, surfacing, gradient, gates, surface water and number of car parking spaces provided. It was also stated that the applicant should be responsible for ensuring the construction of the development did not interfere with regular services such as home delivery and bin collection. Statutory neighbour notification was carried out and the proposal was advertised for non-notification of neighbours in the local paper. 12 letters of objection and 1 letter of comment were received. On receipt of the application for review, a further 5 letters of objection were received. In summary, the grounds of objection raised related to overdevelopment of the site. The new dwelling is too close to the footway. The garden areas formed are significantly smaller than surrounding properties. The new dwelling is not required. There are a number of major housing developments being constructed in East Kilbride. The new dwelling will overlook and overshadow neighbouring properties. There will be further tree loss to the detriment of the character of the area, loss of green space to the detriment of wildlife, insufficient and unsuitable parking to the detriment of road safety. The design of the new house is bland. It would set a precedent for similar developments. Constructing the development would result in unacceptable traffic, noise, dust and disruption. Previous planning applications were refused. Neighbour notification has not been properly carried out. There are legal restrictions that prevent the land being developed. The application form may not have been completed correctly. Has the proposal been assessed properly given COVID-19 restrictions? The proposal would adversely affect adjacent homes from being able to extend their properties. The planning process does not allow objectors to appeal when poor decisions are made. The proposal is contrary to policy Dm1 subdivision of garden ground of the local development plan. It is detrimental to amenity. The applicant has sold the property. 1 letter of comment was also received requesting that flora, fauna and species are protected throughout the development process. The policies identified in the adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan of particular relevance to the proposal are policies 4 and 6 and policies Dm1, Dm3 and Dm13 of the Development Management, Placemaking and Design Supplementary Guidance. In summary, Policy 4, Development Management and Placemaking requires all planning applications to take account of and be integrated with the local context and built form of the area. Policy 6, General Urban Area Settlement, states developments will not be permitted if they are detrimental to the amenity of residents. Each proposal will be judged on its own merits with particular consideration given to the impact on the amenity of the area. Policy Dm1 Design states that Council will expect the design and layout of new development to meet the appropriate criteria within the local development plan and supplementary guidance. Policy Dm3 Subdivision of garden ground states that the development of a new house or houses within the curtilage of an existing house will be considered favourably where it can be demonstrated that the proposal complies with certain criteria. In summary, these criteria state the proposed house is of a scale, massing, design and material sympathetic to the character and pattern of development in the area and does not result in a development that appears cramped, visually obtrusive or be of an appearance which is so out of keeping with the established character that it is harmful to the amenity of the area. B, the proposed plot and that remaining of the existing house are comparable with those nearby in terms of size, shape and amenity. The proposal accords with the established pattern of development in the surrounding area. C, the proposed house should have a proper road frontage of comparable size and form to surrounding curtilages. D, the proposed vehicular access is of an adequate standard and will not have adverse implications for traffic safety or adversely affect amenity. E, the garden space allocated for the proposed houses and remaining house or houses and remaining for the existing house should be sufficient for the recreational amenity and drying needs of the occupants. F, the proposed development will not cause an unacceptable reduction in privacy to existing houses and will itself enjoy a degree of privacy. G, the proposed development will not overshadow adjacent properties. H, all existing features such as trees, hedges, walls, fences and buildings that contribute to the character of the area should be retained. I, adequate parking for both the proposed and existing house must be provided. The proposal must not jeopardise or be prejudicial to any further desirable development in the vicinity. And policy DM13, development within general urban area settlement, states that any development proposed within the general urban area settlement must also satisfy a list of criteria. In summary, the criteria state the proposed development must relate satisfactorily to adjacent and surrounding development. The character and amenity of the area must not be impaired. There must be no resultant loss of or damage to features which make a significant contribution to the character and amenity of the area. The development must be adequately serviced. There must be no adverse effect on public safety. On 17th of August 2020, the Directorate for Planning and Environmental Appeals issued its report of the examination of the proposed South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2, and a number of modifications to the plan were recommended. At Planning Committee on 1st of December 2020, members agreed to the approval of all of the modifications, the publication and public deposit of the plan as modified, and the submission of the plan to Scottish ministers. For the purposes of determining planning applications, the Council will therefore assess these against the policies contained within both the adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan and those within the proposed South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2. In this regard, the application site and associated proposal is affected by Policy 3, General Urban Areas and Settlements, Policy 5, Development Management and Placemaking, Policy Dm1 Design, and Policy Dm3, Subdivision of Garden Ground. These policies build on the policies and proposals contained in the adopted Local Development Plan. Finally, Chair, the review body should note that the appellant's agent considers that no further procedure would be of assistance to the review body. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gwen. As Gwen's just said, the appellant's agent has said they don't need any further information. We're quite happy to continue.
Yes.
Any comments? We're quite happy to continue. We don't need any further information.
No.
Continue.
Okay, thank you. So can I summarise the points that Gwen's just made? The application is for planning permission for a subdivision of garden ground and erection of two-storey detached dwelling house at 15 Dunedin Drive, East Kilbride. The local development plan identifies the site as being within a residential area. If we consider that the proposal would be detrimental to the amenity of the surrounding residential area and would not accord with policies 4, DM1 and DM3 of the adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan and associated supplementary guidance, and policies 5, DM1 and DM3 of the proposed South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2, permission can be refused. Or, if we consider that the proposed development would not have an adverse impact on the amenity of the surrounding residential area, we could grant planning consent, subject to conditions. Our options are uphold, or reverse, or vary the planning determination. Anyone get any comments to make?
Yes, can I ask a question?
Certainly, Jim.
Right. This came up at the last planning committee and it was deferred to allow more consultation. And so I'm a bit puzzled as to why it hasn't gone back to the planning committee, assuming that that consultation took place. So did that consultation take place?
Sorry, Jim, it's actually a different application. It's in the same street. But this is number 15.
No, it was number 15 that we deferred at last meeting, was it not?
No, it's number 55.
Sorry, right, okay.
I know it's confusing because it's in the same street. Anyone else got any comments or questions? Alec?
Chair, Gwen, just for clarity, how do you define amenity in terms of obviously the effect it will have on neighbouring properties?
Councillor Allison, amenity does capture a number of things. It can be impact on sunlight, daylight, can be overlooking, it can be the impact of the size and scale of the development on the general character of the local area. It could be odour. I think in terms of policy DM3, it ultimately looks to pull out in more detail each of the considerations, but a lot of them you could encapsulate within the general term amenity. So I could keep talking on and on about various strands from that, but does that make it a bit clearer?
Yeah, on a specific point, I don't know the area, so I'm simply going from these papers. Within that area, it seems to be not huge houses, just traditional houses, but with a large area, 1,000 square meters, some of them. The fact that this halves that level more in line with the rest of East Kilbride, does that affect, how does that come into the discussion at all, that other houses in the area have a larger amenity, if you like, in terms of the footprint, and does that work into their amenity at all, and that we're affecting this with this type of application?
Ultimately, the policy and subdivision of garden ground requires an assessment to be made of whether or not the subdivision into the existing houses plot and the proposed new plot, and it's whether that is comparable to that within the local area, and whether that the way it's been subdivided, whether or not that has an acceptable impact on the amenity of the proposed house and the existing house. I could go through the criteria again if you like.
Through you, Chair, can I just follow on just now?
Yes.
So therefore, right, the amenity is in the surrounding area. So where is the surrounding area here? Is it the whole of East Kilbride? Is it Inglewood Drive? Is it, or how do we define local area? Because there will be a significant difference in the amenity under these terms, depending on where you are within East Kilbride.
Chair, if I may go on to say, ultimately the local area would be the immediate area to the application site, that if you were to live in that street or the nearby area to the application site, what you would be able to view whilst being in that area.
Thank you.
Right. Chair?
Yes, Jim?
Can I just follow up what Alec was saying? I mean, East Kilbride, like everywhere else, has a lot of different areas. This is a very low density area in terms of East Kilbride. The street itself is a low density area, and I think that's the crucial thing. A lot of people buy properties in a street like that, particularly for that reason, because it is low density, and I think that's why the local plan, if you like, takes this as a consideration, and that's where the amenity comes in. If you buy a house in a low density area and then gradually over time that disappears because we start having multiple houses built on, 2 houses in every plot, then that affects the amenity of the area. But it is a low density area, and it is quite a self-contained area if you go and visit it.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions or comments? Are we happy to uphold the planning determination?
I would uphold the planner's decision, yes.
I would uphold it as well. It's Maureen Devlin.
Thank you. We all like-minded?
Agreed, Chair. Yes,
Agreed.
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 Okay, thank you. Therefore, the decision of the PLRB is to refuse planning permission, as we are satisfied that the proposed development would be contrary to policies 4, DM1 and DM3 of the adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan, and associated supplementary guidance and policies 5, DM1 and DM3 of the proposed South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan. The next stage is a written decision notice will be issued by the PLRB, and this should be issued within 28 days. I'd like to thank you all very much. Sorry about the bang. Thank you all very much for attendance. I don't have any other urgent business. So I'll close the meeting and just ask the clerk to stop the recording. Thank you all very
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Chair.
Thanks,
Bye.
Chair.
Thanks, Chair.